Hey everyone, Gnogot here. So in Maze of the Masters we got support for the Odion archetype, which I was excited for, especially the prospect of combining it with Argo Stars. Now as I tested it with Argo Stars, it actually didn't work out that well, which was a bit disappointing, but once I took out the Argo Stars and just played it pure, I actually saw that the deck has some teeth to it now. Obviously, trap decks are in a bit of a weird spot right now because of Ryzeal, especially Detonator is really strong, just popping back row, and especially if they play Fiendsmith, and they also have the Desiree, and it gets really tough. But I think I found a good shell that I wanted to present to you to start with. And the nice thing about trap decks is they're very flexible in their build, so maybe you find some trap card that no one's ever heard of that kind of flips the matchup around. Today I wanted to present you the deck that I have. It's pretty much a pure prospect that you can use as a starting point and then go from there. So let's hop into the deck profile. Alright, let's hop into the deck profile. As always, we start with the main deck. So we have 3 Men with the Mark. This is your main starter, and we also have 3 Anubis, which searches the Man of the Mark. Now you see my locals only had 1 Anubis, the other ones are on their way to me, but 3 Anubis obviously. You want to max out on the starters. Speaking of, we have 3 of the treasures, which basically gets you to your combo anyway. Like the man gets you to the temple, and the temple sets a trap, so on and so forth. And you obviously also play the terraforming to get to the temple. And for extra consistency, you play the Prosperity. So that's about 11 starters, which is not a lot, but this is a trap deck, so you can live with just setting 5 and passing. There's also a lot of other things you can do, which you'll see in a second, but this is just like standard engine. A lot of people play Extravagance, which I also think is good, but there are some reasons as to why I don't want to run Extravagance. Which I'll get to later in the deck. Other parts of the engines are Temple of the Kings and the Scorpion. You only need 1 Scorpion. This is usually just used during your setup. It's very weirdly worded where you can only summon it when you already have the temple, so one of your other starters has to go through. So I don't think you want to hard draw this card, that's why it's at 1, but you'll need it just to get to your full setup. Which I'll show you in the combo section later. And then for the Apophis traps, we play 3 of the new Apophis. This card is very good. This alone, even if you don't have a starter, this alone gets you 1 Omni basically and just throws 2 bodies on the field. During your opponent's turn, of course, but still, it's a piece of interaction if you draw it, and you will reset this a lot. Then we have the other Apophis, the Deity, which makes this an Omni. So this sets this if you don't have anything else to do. And this negates cards on the field up to the number of other continuous traps you control. So that's at least 1 with this. And we play 2 because sometimes during a combo, if you have extra pieces, for example, if you already draw this, the temple can set this. And then you have 2 negates because this is not once per turn. And the other Apophis trap, we play the vanilla one. I've been going back and forth on this, but the reason we play this is because the new Apophis has a graveyard effect where when it gets sent to the graveyard, you get to add the OG, so it's a free plus. And you could say it's an empty plus because this just summons itself as a monster, but this gives you a pop at least with your fusion monster or your rabbit or your statue. And it's also level 4, so sometimes you can just use this as a level 4 extender as well. So I think it's just nice to have as a one-off. Speaking of statue, we run 3 of these. You can cut this down because you can access this theoretically with Rabbit, but it's your best trap monster, and I figured if you already draw this, Rabbit can just set something else, or you can just forego the Rabbit and do something else with the bodies on the board. So drawing this is nice, but you have a lot of wiggle room, so if you want to try other stuff, you can go 1 statue. It's recyclable because of your Anubis, so feel free to experiment with that. For now, I kept it very, very vanilla. And then we have some non-monster traps. We have 2 Deroma Cannon. This is your preferred target for the Lord of the Heavenly Prison, which we'll get to in a second. Post side you can put something else in, but this just is generically good and has some nice synergy because when you have all your Apophis cards and traps on the field and you got a lot of pops out of this, for the last push your opponent does, you Daruma them, hoping like that it ends the opponent's turn at that point. And the way it works is if you Daruma your own traps, they go back to the spell trap zone. So starting your turn, you can just summon them again and just pop all the set monsters on your opponent's side of the field, which is a lot of value. And then for the last trap, we have 3 strike. This is already played in Ryzeal. Some pure Ryzeal decks play it in the main. They say it's good going second even, because you can just play into a board and set it. So I think it's just very good into a trap deck as well. And it's also accessible with Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Speaking of, this is kind of the MVP of the deck, but the Man of the Mark is. But this is a really good addition to it, because it kind of gets you to all the non-monster traps in the deck, giving you a lot of flexibility, especially post-side. We only want one, because when we can play, we can get this. And if we don't get to Temple of the Kings, we don't really want to hard draw this, because we have protection for Feather Duster, because we have Omnis on the field. So one as a searchable target is fine. Then, because we have a little of consistency issues with only 11 starters, especially if the Man of the Mark gets hand trapped, I opted to play a different engine, which is Nadir Servant, which a lot of you will say now that it's worse than Extra, but my logic here is A, you'll see in a second, I want the extra deck space, but also Extra can get you to just more of your Odion engine, which doesn't help you if your Man with the Mark got impermed, because if you draw another Anubis or another man, that doesn't do anything. So with this thing, you will act on a different axis, and if your Man with the Mark gets impermed, you Nadir Servant, you get a lot of value out of this, you get an extra trap, and with the other traps in your hand, you will hopefully survive until the next turn. So with that, we play 1 Ecclesia, and the last second edition, I put in the Fleur. I'm not sure about this, because it's a trap deck, so you want every card to be as live as possible. But then also, if you draw the Nadir with the Ecclesia, it does nothing, which again goes against the logic of you want everything to be possible. And worst case, if you have Man with the Mark and Fleur, and they imperm the Man with the Mark, you just link the Man with the Mark off, you special summon this, and then you just link into Rabbit. So it's not bad. And obviously we play Dogmatic Punishment. A trap card works wonderfully with the extra deck that we already play, because of Nadir Servant and the card you'll see in a second. And can also get you 2 pops during the opponent's turn. And that brings you to the last segment of this section. Now, we are in Ryzeal format, and we are trap deck, so Detonator will get a lot of value just popping cards on our field, especially the Temple and the Treasures. So I opted to play Ultimate Slayer in the main. Not only because of Ryzeal, obviously it's very good against Ryzeal, but also just because as a trap deck, not all decks have a lot of interactions with spell and traps. They usually have like 1 or 2. And going second, you just want to out 1 or 2 of the cards that really oppress your trap strategy, and then grind out the rest of the board, maybe with the Daruma Karma Cannon. Sometimes even Temple of the Kings and Daruma Karma Cannon, because then you can activate the Daruma immediately and deal with the rest of the board. So just getting rid of key pieces is huge, and the worst case, it's a settable card for your Treasures. So I really liked the Slayer in the main. And another card that is pretty nice against Detonator is the Foolish Buried Goods alongside the Blackout Labs. This just gives you an out to anything on the board, so you can actually activate your temple and get your resources going. But also, as a secondary target, right now we have the Apophis, the Serpent, new one, which can, if you already have the Blackout Labs, you can send the Apophis, and this just gets you the other OG Apophis into your hand, which is fine. It gets you something to do with the Burial Goods. So that's our going second package. I was considering Lava Golem, but we are kind of normal summon reliant, so yeah. Alright, extra deck. We have 2 of the new Apophis. This is your grind game. This gets you another interaction. Just a very good card. and then we have the Silhouette Rabbit. At least one. You can play two, but for now I think having one for the setup turn is fine. Get you to your Anguish pattern. After that you just grind out the games with your recycling of traps. And after that the extra deck is pretty much open. Now obviously you want a Typhon, which is very good. Another way to turn off Detonator, at least for your turn, so that you can set up your traps and at least get to play. We have a Link Smiter because the Apophis traps summon themselves as normal monsters, and sometimes you want to make a Rabbit with those. So Rabbit needs 2 effect monsters. So we have a Link Spider, so we can link off a trap and go Link Spider plus Man into Rabbit. Then another Link one is Almirage. This is for the Nadir Servant engine because if you normal summon your Man with a Mark and it gets impermed and you have a Nadir Servant in hand, you want to make this so that you can search Ecclesia and special summon it. I opted for this over the Artemis because Artemis doesn't really do much, being a spellcaster or a light, because we are not playing something like Village. And because you're locked out of the extra deck after Nadir Servant, they will just sit around, so at least Almirage has a protection effect for the worst case. Then we have one Gallant Granite for our main combo. It's a rank 4. And the other rank 4s are kind of flex slots. They're really a luxury. I just put them in just to show you that you can do Dweller Place or Redoer with a trap underneath it, which is very nice. So these are possible. Obviously, feel free to cut these for whatever you like. We have an SP for follow-up turns for grind games. And then lastly, we have the Nadir Servant / Ultimate Slayer package, which is one Bucephalus, the Garura to go with it, the Malone, and the Aggregator. So these are the Ultimate Slayer targets. And then lastly, for the Dogmatica Punishment, we have Entis, which also can be used for Slayer or Nadir Servant as well. Alright, that's the deck. Some options that you can consider. You can play one of the new counter trap, Verdict of Anubis, which is helpful if you have your Man with the Mark and Temple, because the Man with the Mark would only get you to Temple again. So instead you could search this. The reason I don't opt to run it is because if you hard draw it, you don't really do much with it. You can set it alongside with the other traps and it's a spell trap negate, but you rather have things that get your place through. And if you get your Man with the Mark through, it doesn't matter if you don't get extra value off the Temple because the setup is strong enough. So I opted to not play it, but feel free to put it in, for example, over the Fleur-de-Lis. The Dimensional Barrier is a placeholder for any floodgate you like. Depending on the format, you can just main any floodgate because it's accessible because of the Heavenly Prism. So we have a Metaltronus that you can play. You'd have to play Detonator in the main or Goddess, but it's another out to Detonator. Now, I had this and Slayer in the main deck, but I felt there was too many go second cards that don't do anything going first, so I opted for the more flexible Foolish Burial Goods. But just wanted to say, your extra is flexible. You already have the Aggregator from Alice, so you can main deck this, and this can also be set going first. If you don't like Fleur-de-Lis, you can run Maximus to get more value. I thought I don't want to get my opponent a Desiree Send, so I don't want to play Maximus, and also Maximus, if your Man with the Mark gets impermanent, you have Maximus hard drawn, as I said before, with the Fleur-de-Lis, that's possible, you can just make Rabbit. With Maximus, that's not really possible. And then for the Burial Goods, if you want, you can play a Rainbow Bridge package, which means your Foolish Burial Goods now becomes a starter. You'd have to play a Crystal Beast. I would advise to play the Cobalt Eagle because it's level 4 and it can put itself into the deck to unbreak the bridge. But I didn't want to play 2 bricks in a trap deck for that play. You can play Argo Stars campaign. Now, I had a hybrid version with Argo Stars, but it felt like both decks were operating on different axes. So even though both are like Anguish pattern decks, so I took them out. Once we get the Argo Stars Searcher, there's actually a line where you can just do Odion stuff into Argo Stars and put a bigger board out. But for now, If you want to run one Argo Stars card, it would be this, because this can summon itself when you have a trap monster on the field. And the reason to run this is just because it's a continuous trap that you can put into the monster zone and put back, so it's 1 pop per turn just for free, just for the grind game. It's a nice option to have. Another floodgate is anti-spell fragrance, just because Harpy's Feather Dust and Lightning Storm, so you can just get this with Heavenly Prison, flip it up. Now, note that it will banish itself during the next end phase, so maybe that's a good thing though. Maybe I have a Nadir Servant as follow-up, so you just let this banish itself after opponent is locked out of spells, and then you play from there. And because we run Gallant Granite, we can also run at least an Nibiru, maybe 3. It softens up boards, but also it's searchable. And we don't really care about nibbing your own board, because it's just a bunch of traps. Alright. That's it for the profile. Let's hop into some combos. Alright, so let's go into the 1-card combo. I'll show you 2 lines. One of the more standard line, where you just do Odion stuff, and one's the line that I like to do. I'll show you when I branch off. So let's just start with a standard one. You'll have the Man with the Mark and any card that you can set. In this case, it's the Dead Ultimate Slayer. So you normal summon the Man with the Mark. It gets you the treasures, which you activate to get you Apophis, and then you set any card, and that'll activate the treasures, searching you Circuit, which you can special summon by banishing Anubis from your deck. And you can activate Circuit, get you Treasure of the Kings. And this is where it branches off, so if you want to do standard, you just link these 2 off. Go Silhouette Rabbit, get you Statue of Anguish pattern. You can activate the Temple, that allows you to activate the Apophis, special itself. Use the effect to special another Apophis, which you'll then also activate and summon. And then you'll fuse these 2 into the Apophis Fusion, triggering the Apophis Trap to get you the OG. And then the Apophis Fusion can reset both of these cards. And that's your setup. So what do you have? You have Silhouette Rabbit for a spell trap pop. You have the Apophis Fusion monster, which can also pop a card once the monster is summoned. You'll have the Anguish pattern, which gets you 1 pop, and that'll get you another deity, 2 pops, 3 pops, and these are also 2 Omni Negates. And as the follow-up, you also, if this stays, you can just reset 3 of your Apophis traps, and you are good to go. Now, I don't like doing this line that much, simply for the reason that if you count through the whole summons, once you're at this spot, Rabbit is summon number 3, 4, 5, they can nib you here, and that means that all of this goes to the grave. You will get the add of the Apophis, and then you can set it. So after a nib, you just end up with 1 pop, and for a trap deck to lose to nib is kind of not filling the niche that a trap deck should fill out. So what I like to do instead is, let's rewind it a bit here. We'll have these on board, this is the trap zone, and the Silhouette Rabbit goes into the extra deck. So what I like to do instead is, I like at this point to activate the Apophis, get into the spell trap zone, get the Apophis, so that's 3 summons, and on the 4th summon, I go into the Gallant Granite. Now you use the Gallant Granite, detach Man with the Mark. It's just a minor technical thing to detach this first, and this will get you your Lord of the Heavenly Prison, which you can then reveal in your hand, and then you go and link these 2 into your Silhouette Rabbit, which then you go chaining 1 Silhouette Rabbit, chaining 2 Apophis. This is why you did it like this with the detaching, in case they have Gamma, which is not that probable, but it's free, so why not play around it. So you'll get the Anguish pattern, and you get an Apophis into your hand, and then you're gonna set the Apophis, which in the other combo would be stuck in your hand, and you go with this. So why do I like this more? Now Rabbit is your 5th summon. If they nib, you lose a spell trap pop, that's whatever. You'll keep your fusion for the follow-up turns, and what you can do, because you have the Lord of the Heavenly Prison first, if they Feather Dust you, you'll lose like these, which is fine, and or you can just go with the Omni on the Feather Duster too, depending on the matchup. Because the Temple of the King is actually very important here. So let's say you activate your first trap. You go Anguish pattern, right? That can trigger your Lord of the Heavenly Prison. to summon itself, and that sets any trap from your deck. This is especially good post side, but even pre-siding. You set a Daruma Karma Cannon, and because of Temple of the Kings, whatever you set is immediately activatable. So let's say you go through the plays, right? You go Omni Negate, pop, pop. You go special this, pop another card. Now, if you activate the Daruma Karma Cannon, as you stop the last push of your opponent, your rabbit goes to the grave, this gets set, and then you can actually go, and the way this works with the ruling is these trap monsters set themselves, and that means they go back to the spell trap zone. Now, in this case, you have 2 slots open and 3 monsters, so one of them will have to go to the grave. Let's say you put the Apophis cards back, this goes to the grave, and starting your turn, you can actually activate your Apophis cards again. And in this case, you would just go with these 2, go into the fusion, and then reset all of your Apophis cards. And that's immediate follow-up as well, all while playing through Nib. So that's why I like to do this line. And obviously, post-side, you just set D-Barrier with the Prison, and that just stops the opponent's turn. All right, that's the 1-card combo. Let's hop into the Nadir Servant. Now, the reason why I run Nadir Servant over Extravagance is because it acts on a different axis than your Odion engine, because if your normal summon gets stopped, you can still do something with Nadir, and Nadir is also settable for your field spell, which Extrav has to be activated at the start of the main phase, so that's not possible. Obviously, you'll find something to set, but you'll leave open some flexibility here. Now, I could show you the same combo before, just with the Nadir Servant at the end. That's not really that interesting. Just note that Nadir Servant is just a settable card. In the last combo we had Slayer, which was dead. In this case you would have the Nadir Servant, which you'll keep until the end, activate, do your things, and then you have another spell trap slot open for your Dogmatica punishment. Or if you drew another trap that's good, like a Daruma, you can also just grab Fleur-de-Lis and keep that interaction in your hand as opposed to on the field. But let's go through the combo when your Man with the Mark gets impermed. It's not really an elaborate combo, it just goes to show what you can do and why this helps after you get impermed here. Note that you also have 3 more cards in your hand here, so you go normal summon the man. This gets impermed. Now before you go Nadir Servant, you have to link this off because you'll get extra deck locked after. So there's the Army Rush. And now you go Nadir Servant, send the Garura, get Ecclesia. Garura gets you a draw. Let's say it's an Apophis, that'll be really good. It's another piece of interaction here. And then you can just go special summon the Ecclesia, gets you a punishment, and you'll set these, and you have 3 more cards in hand. And the Armor Rod can also be protection for your plays. Dogmatica punishment can obviously be a bounce, it could be a negate and a pop, it could be 2 pops, it could even out very big monsters, and then this sends nothing because we already sent the Garura. If you want, you can play a second Garura for that case, you get another draw. So that's what Nadir Servant would do for you. Now, this doesn't look too impressive, but with 3 more cards in hand, I think that's pretty nice, where your opponent is on 1 less hand trap. 1 less card in your hand because they hand trapped you. So that's it for the deck. There's not that many elaborate combos for this deck. It's more of a trap grind deck, so you have to know what you're doing with it. But I think the setup lines are pretty nice to know, especially the toolboxing you get through the Lord of the Heavenly Prison. So hope you all enjoyed this video. Leave a like and a comment, and I'll see you next time.